The topic is the journey begins with 5G with OTT. And it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Sunil David, Regional Director, IOT India and ASEAN AT&T Global Network Services India Private Limited, to deliver his keynote presentation. The stage is all yours, Mr. Sunil. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vijay, for that introduction.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. So at the outset, I would like to thank the Trescon team for inviting me to give this talk on the topic of how 5G is going to impact the OTT market. Now, talking about 5G, I just wanted you all to step back 40 years back. So if you just look at the evolution of networks right from the 1980s to 2021, what we have seen is right from the first generation technology to 4G, it was all about faster speeds, right? So 1G was all about voice, 2G a little bit of data, and as you came to 3G, we could have a little bit of video. With 4G, we started to see a lot more video being used on the network. Now, while 1G to 4G was all about faster speeds, 5G is just not about faster speeds. 5G is all about a new experience. 5G will alter the DNA of the experience of users, whether you talk about it from an enterprise standpoint or from a consumer standpoint. And talking about user experience, I would like to give you an equation here. User experience is equal to speed plus latency plus reliability plus security. And these are the characteristics of 5G, right? And talking of characteristics of 5G, I just wanted to share very quickly, what benefits that 5G would bring to the industry. The first and foremost being it's, comes with ultra low latency. So your latency is going to be—
Sorry, Mr. Sunil, Charanpreet, could you please turn off your camera if you don't mind? Thank you very much. Sorry, sir, please go ahead.
Yeah, so talking about latency, the latency is going to be less than 10 milliseconds. That is very, very low. So the kind of applications that would be possible on 5G would be amazing. In fact, last year there was a surgery that was done remotely using 5G because a particular surgeon could not be in the operating theater. Remotely, he was able to instruct the surgeon to do it on a 5G network. So, low latency applications will really do well. Secondly, very, very reliable network. So 5G, you're using a protocol, New Radio, NR, and you're talking about a reliability of 99.59, 99.99999, reliability. So mission critical latency sensitive applications would run really well on 5G. Thirdly, it comes with a lot of capacity, right? So your massive IoT connectivity would definitely be possible on a 5G network. So for example, in a 1 square kilometer radius, you could have 1 million devices. It could be cameras, it could be any device to which you can connect to the internet. And finally, and this is what is really exciting, is the high speeds that would be possible with 5G. So you're talking about speeds of 1 gigabits per second and higher, right? And you have different frequency bands that you use in 5G. So for example, you could use less than 1 gigahertz. You could use mid-band spectrum, which is 3.3 to 3.6 gigahertz. And then you have what is called millimeter wavelength spectrum, right? From 24 gigahertz and higher. And in this millimeter wavelength spectrum, you can really run very, very high speeds. You could even go up to 10 to 20 gigabits per second, almost like 100 times faster than 4G. So these are the capabilities that 5G is going to bring. Now, what are the key foundational pillars of 5G? This is a busy slide, but I'm not going to go into the details of all this, but I just wanted to highlight 3 important aspects here. The first thing is that the enhanced mobile broadband, one very key pillar of 5G. So today, the penetration of 5G smartphones are very less. We'll obviously have to wait for the ecosystem to develop. And as 5G smartphones get affordable, we'll probably see a lot more users using enhanced mobile broadband, right? So once you have that enhanced mobile broadband, you could download ultra high definition movies in a matter of seconds as opposed to minutes today on a 4G network. Applications like hologram, virtual presence, all that would be possible, on a 5G network. Secondly, it's called ultra reliable, low latency communications or critical communications. So, for example, industrial control, monitoring of industrial assets in a factory, robots in a factory, public safety. You have these cameras, CCTV cameras, through which you can actually use 5G network to live stream data to the data center, right? So a lot of this real-time communications would be possible. And thirdly, massive machine type communications. I just spoke about it a little while back, but the fact that you have this high capacity and the high density that 5G is offering, you can have a number of devices on a single network. Just imagine, a large stadia, and then if you have so many cameras there, all of them can be connected on a 5G network. And I just wanted to end with what, a very nice statement which NGMN, which is a next generation mobile alliance. It's an open forum which is founded by mobile operators. And they came up with a very nice, vision for 5G, which is, it is an end-to-end ecosystem to enable a fully mobile and connected society. It empowers value creation towards customers and partners through existing and emerging use cases, delivered with consistent experience and enabled by sustainable business models. Right? I think it's a wonderful definition. It kind of covers the whole spectrum, whether you're talking about consumers, or you're talking about enterprises. And I like the last one, sustainable business models, right? Very, very applicable to the OTT industry, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to monetize a 5G network, right? So, and 5G was definitely going to be a key enabler for that. Very quickly, what are the trends that are currently shaping the OTT market? Now we've started to see a lot more OTTs building their own content. In fact, I recollect, I think a couple of years back, Netflix, I think their budget for content, new content, was almost like $10 billion, right? So you name any OTT player, they are wanting to build original content, because at the end of the day, the quality of content is a very, very great loyalty driver, right? That is going to attract consumers, right? And you compare content with price. If the quality of content is more, I'm sure there are consumers who are willing to pay a premium for that content. And talking of quality of content, when you add personalization of the content, it just takes experience to a new level, right? And from an India standpoint, if we're able to build that content in vernacular languages, given that we are so diverse, I think it's definitely going to be a game changer, so to speak, for the OTT industry. The other trend that we are seeing is this whole adoption of short form user-generated content. People like snackable content. People like to generate content for 1 minute, 2 minutes, or even less than that, right? So especially the millennials or the Gen Zs would prefer to see short form user-generated content. So that adoption is going up. And we are also started to see connected TVs on the rise. And especially this is playing out in the urban cities, because the cost of TVs over a period of time has come down. And we're seeing OEMs now adding a lot more smartness and connectedness to the TVs, right? So they are coming with IoT fused in it, so you can remotely monitor your TVs, you can stream content, right? So we're seeing two things play out. One is a lot more mobile penetration in the rural hinterlands of India, and a lot more connected TVs on the rise in the urban areas. The question is, how will 5G change the OTT game? And the first thing which I wanted to talk about is the quality of experience, for the OTT's high value subscribers, right? And, I'd just like to quote the Pareto principle here, where, it says that for any large enterprise, 20% of their customers gives 80% of their revenue, right? And this might be even true for an OTT, where 20% of the high value subscribers might be giving a bulk of their revenue, right? And if you're able to enhance the quality of experience for them, then I'm sure they'll be willing to pay a premium for superior content. Secondly, 5G has to be coupled with other technologies. 5G and isolation will not work. So when you combine 5G with augmented reality, with virtual reality, the kind of immersive and interactive experience one would get is just phenomenal. I just given a picture of a VR headset here, but one can actually immerse themselves in a virtual world. And when you add the 5G layer to that, it completely transforms the viewing experience for somebody. Multi-layer online cloud gaming, and we started to see a lot more adoption of gaming today. And with the advantage of a 5G network, you really don't need to have very expensive hardware at your end, right? So you have gaming consoles which are expensive. Now with 5G, one need not have the expensive gaming hardware. One could have standard handsets, because the entire processing capability of the handsets moves to the cloud, right? So cloud gaming is definitely going to get a boost. And in fact, the overall gaming market itself is expected to grow in the years to come. The next thing is that the targeted advertisements that are, which you see from time to time, they can actually be customized in real time, and it can be for a specific target group. And this is only going to be possible because your latency is going to be very, very low. And when you add the higher speed that you're going to get with 5G, that will really make a huge impact. The other point which I wanted to share is that it's just not about superior content, right? If you're able to add additional applications, right? For example, e-learning, e-health, and wellness, entertainment, when you're able to bundle all this as a package from an OTT standpoint, and I think you can really come up with very innovative business models, because at the end of the day, as a consumer, we want value from what the OTT is going to give us, right? And if you're able to get not just superior content, video on demand and all that, but if I'm also going to get maybe better learning experiences using AR and VR, then I think it definitely opens a new revenue stream for the OTTs. And finally, the whole sports and live events are getting redefined through OTT. And 5G is a very key enabler for that. And I'm going to talk about a couple of examples here. I wanted to share with you all, a use case of what we did a couple of years back at the US Open, which happened sometime in July in 2018. And what we did is, over a 5G network, we are actually able to do a live stream of this whole event, which was sent to the command center over, our direct TV. Which is one of our acquisitions, and we were able to use speeds of almost 60 Mbps for this. And the whole experience for the consumers was, phenomenal for them to be able to see this as though they were actually there physically at that event, right? For those who actually cannot go to the stadia to see a live event, one option, of course, would be for you all to, if you're at the stadia, of course, you can not just see the event in real time, but you can take pictures of it, you can take videos of this and stream it on social media. For someone who really wants to get that real experience of being in the stadia, one can actually wear an augmented reality headset or a VR headset and actually feel as though he's in a football stadium and get that real immersive experience as though he's on that football field, right? So 5G can actually address two segments. One is for people in the stadia, it can enhance their experience. Plus people who cannot go to the stadia, they can, through a 5G network, can actually get that immersive experience, right? And we're probably going to see a lot more use of 5G for sporting events. In fact, the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, they used 5G networks extensively for that. I'm just coming to my last slide, and I just wanted to share that what would be the key drivers for success for the OTTs. The first thing is that content is obviously going to be the key to success, because 5G is only going to enrich the content. And the moment you're able to enrich the content, that will enable monetization for the OTTs. Secondly, this is very India specific, but if you're able to get the cost of 5G handsets down, especially in the tier 3-4 cities in the rural hinterlands of India, we're probably a year away from 5G in India, but eventually when we get 5G here, and if the cost of the 5G handsets, if you're able to get it low, if the data plans are affordable, and I think that will really drive a lot more opportunities for the OTTs, right? Because we are talking about connecting the next 500 million or 1 billion, and where is that going to come from? That's going to come obviously from the rural parts of India. And the last important point which I wanted to make is that we are living in a platform economy. It's the battle of the future is not between one company against another company. It's going to be an ecosystem against an ecosystem, right? A platform against a platform. And even for the OTTs, I think it's extremely important that they forge the right partnerships. They got to have that ecosystem built. The OTTs partnering with the telcos, the hyperscale providers, the cloud providers become very, very important, because when you're talking about rich immersive content, you want to store it, you need a lot of compute and storage for that. And thanks to the hyperscalers, you can do that. You need the OEMs to come together, right? The Samsungs and all those guys who make the headsets, the phones. You need very powerful processing. So, and good edge devices. So there you have the likes of AMD and Cisco coming together. And of course, the OTTs, right? So it's all going to be about trying to get the right ecosystem, making sure that whoever owns the customer can take ownership and give them that experience that they wanted. And if they're able to do that, then it's a win-win for all the players in the ecosystem. So with that, I end my presentation and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you so much.
Oh, all right. Brilliant. Thank you so very much, Mr. Sunil, for the crisp and precise presentation. We do have a question. Hope it's all right for you to answer the question, though.
Sure, sure.
So the question is, how fast will India adapt the 5G network? And this question is from Mr. Nitin Shukla.
Yeah, so as far as India is concerned, sometime the second quarter of 2022 is when the spectrum would be auctioned, because you need the spectrum for 5G. So it will get auctioned sometime second quarter next year. And after they get the spectrum, the operators will start rolling out 5G networks. And they'll also have to build a lot more fiber on the ground. So I would say anytime between end of next year to early 2023, if all things go well, we should perhaps have some commercial rollouts of 5G networks. It might probably start in the cities, but it will later on expand to maybe the tier 2, tier 3, and maybe the rural parts of India a little later. But initially it will be the metros and the tier 1 cities perhaps.
So you think it would take another two to 3 years for India to extensively implement 5G?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because see, Vijay, what is important is the whole ecosystem has to come together, because it's just not enough to have a 5G network. You got to have the content, which is really killer apps that you need, content that needs to be developed to leverage the 5G network, right? It doesn't make sense to have content which is developed in lower resolution, right? So you need to have content. And the most important thing, Vijay, is you got to have the device ecosystem ready, right? So the 5G handsets, today a 5G handset is very expensive, right? So if you're able to get the cost of the 5G devices down, initially it will be of a higher cost, but as volumes pick up, you will expect probably the cost of the devices going down. So all of them have to come together, Vijay. 5G network should be affordable. You should have the 5G content, and you have to have low cost of 5G devices. If all of them come together, which might probably take a couple of years, Vijay, in my view.
I have a personal question, though. This is from, a lot is being spoken about setting up 5G infrastructure. For a common man, help us understand how complicated is setting up a 5G infrastructure for the usage.
See, for the common man, all he needs is a handset which just supports 5G frequency band.
What I meant by, not from the user perspective, just for us to understand the complications around setting up 5G infrastructure.
Yeah, so what is needed, Vijay, is that existing density of towers needs to be increased. So the operators would need to build a lot more towers. That's one. Number two, Vijay, is that a lot of the towers that you see today, they are connected through low-speed networks, very low-speed networks through radio access, microwave backhaul networks. But with 5G, those would not suffice. So they need to build fiber that will connect the towers. Fiber offers very, very high capacity. So that also needs to be done. So one is densification. A lot more towers need to be built in the cities. A lot of fiber that needs to be laid to connect the towers. And the rest of it is all done through software, Vijay. So from a hardware standpoint, that's about it. But you can actually enable the entire 5G, and a lot of the applications would all be hosted on the cloud, right? So a lot more software-defined networking will be used by the operators, because we are now in a software-driven world, Vijay.
Yes. Awesome. All righty. Brilliant. Thank you so very much, Mr. Sunil, for the insightful session. Much appreciated. Pleasure as always. Thank you very much, sir.